Good morning. I have a journal to share with you that has a bit of a strange story behind it, and I haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet. This journal was written on 4/28 as the second one of the day. The first one of the day disappeared, and I've spent several hours combing the computer for it, behind the scenes everywhere in the temp files, and it's just gone. And I don't know how or where or what that's about. So I'll share with you the second part, and if you like, make a little call for me, send up a little prayer that I get that resolved and uncover and maybe recover the first journal of 4/28. All right, that Mayan day was 2-star rabbit or Venus. It says, it seems that even though I wrote Namaste to end the last journal, something more wants to be said. So here goes. Not sure what. So, how do we behave when we are unconscious, unaware of our greatness, of who, of what we truly are? Well, I suggest we can all just have a look around or at the nightly news to see the answer to that one. Yet, if it's all a sort of fraud, what if it's all a sort of fraud, a phony reality? What if we truly have some sort of a deep power over that? As always, be in heart to hear this. Mind has no authority nor ability to go where you can truly go, to craft what you can truly craft. And you do it day to day, just unknowingly, unconsciously for the most part. But the powers that were know of your power. You can bet on that. Why do you think they're so terribly afraid of us waking up? They do seem to be, huh? Do you think that maybe, perhaps with their time travel technology, which they've kept pretty well hidden for many decades, that they've seen both who we are, of what we are capable of, the changes we are, even now, bringing about? I suggest that's the case. Not of the minions of the lower order puppets they place in positions of apparent power and control. No, those are not the ones, not the powers that were. Those are who they act through, who they completely control. Those have given over free will and even life itself into the hands of those likely making them wild promises, many of which have likely been delivered on. Yes, they are well managed. The powers that were compartmentalized themselves and their hierarchy more intensely than we know, and than the minions know, many of whom are led to believe that they've been told the real truth of things. They have not in the huge number of cases. Being so thoroughly in left brain mode, they have the arrogance to believe that they know the score. Look into your heart. It will take carving out some time and space for quiet, for silence, for peace, some settling down. And this isn't something casually done at first. That would be mind thinking it so easily accomplished. Well, mind can't accomplish it at all, ever, until you come to recognize that, not your mind, but you. Then you can go on pretty endlessly, chasing your tail, going nowhere fast. Mind likes the fast part, but it's not so aware of the nowhere part, of the nowhere that is really now here. Getting into the now here, the ultimate nowhere, is heart's province. A massive shift down into heart is the day's necessity, my friends, to make the great shift. So you might as well head there now as later. From heart, all can be seen. It takes some practice, however, for at first mind will totally interfere. And that's where your beliefs will come into your view. If you're not well centered, you won't likely know that's what you're seeing. You'll think it's something else, somewhere else, someone else, whatever, until you wake up to mind's antics. We have a whole new way of being to carve out. Okay, it's also an impossibly old way too, but in a relative sense, it's new to us in the now here. It's new to the way we've been led into living for so very long, incarnations, millennia. Before going farther, do take responsibility for your life. Stick tightly, closely to heart first. That will keep you strictly free from judging anyone or anything up to and including the self, which is nice. It's time, and beyond time, we both recognized and took ownership of our own life. Now that's a whole lot huger, bigger than we now realize. Conscious mind has us fooled into believing what amounts to a fairyland, believing in a dream. The one that it believes is this reality. Now, can you at least admit to the possibility that this is the case? If not, go no farther. You won't get any of it. Perhaps the biggest aspect of taking ownership of your life is finding out who you are. There is no you in the human aspect of your being. You are not there. You are not that. Mind will never, in a million lifetimes, be able to see and own this. But you can, right now, right here. Are you still with me? How you doing? Which part of you are you identifying with? Are things getting a little hazy? If they are, then that's good. That's closer to the reality than mind has yet come. The biggest danger sign, the biggest red flag for you, the being, is when mind is convinced it knows something. Take that in. The red flag is thinking you know something. You don't. What mind thinks it knows, what it is so amazingly convinced is the truth, is the dream, is aspects and elements of that. facts are not truth, my friends. They are mind's relativistic knowings, no more. It may help to recall that the latest and greatest knowledge in science, what we call the current scientific laws, last no longer than about 20 years. They are always altered and adjusted, even completely replaced at times by the new discoveries down the pike, yet to come, relatively speaking. Perhaps the biggest lie of all is our complete concept of time. Whatever mind thinks time is, it isn't. Yes, time exists in at least some of the higher dimensions. Can't quite speak for them all just yet, but it's nothing at all like mind thinks it is. This is one that has to be pretty much dropped and replaced by what actually is, or by emptiness. That often comes first. Either one is better than a lie. It's the same with space, but there's no need to go there now, for if you get it with time, that's enough. Space is actually another aspect of time. They don't even exist apart from each other. They are two sides of the same coin. And here's the rub. Mind is a belief machine. What it believes gets created, gets enforced on perception by other aspects of mind. You know, the subconscious, the unconscious ones play their part. Those aspects of mind are deeply involved in our life, though obviously below or beyond the realm of our conscious awareness, the part that thinks it knows it all. It is also well to recall that the conscious aspect of mind takes up roughly 5%, maybe as much as 10% in some. So do consider how it is that mind goes through life thinking it knows things, thinking it can evaluate and discern truth with its conscious part. That really is deeply ridiculous if you can stand back enough to see it. How will you know if you're actually seeing it? Maybe you'll sense fear. Mind will become terribly afraid on first being forced to consider this. With this, you are undercutting simply its whole reality, its whole world. You'd be afraid too if you were mind. So, there's an obvious secret. Stand back from mind. That way you can observe and can sense the fear, but not be subject to it. Though it may start out to be really spooky, really pull the rug out from under you scary, soon it isn't. Center in heart and see that fade. And then just watch from there. A lot of waking up hinges on present moment awareness, on being now focused enough to catch the mind at its tricks. In no time at all, you'll be able to spot mind, to spot its antics, to take you off your chosen track. You'll be able to cut such deceptions off at the pass, as it were, and not have them hinder or mystify you anymore. Remember, mind is the aspect of you that thinks it knows. Be very suspicious of any interior movement rising up to insist that something is known. Just step back and watch such things. I'm not saying to even try to stop them, to argue with them, none of that, not at all. Just observe. You'll see. In the meanwhile, quite obviously, it makes sense to be peaceful with not knowing. That's another exercise that will help to isolate you from mind's awareness, from having mind always and forever running the show. Mind doesn't want any part of not knowing, much less being peaceful in the presence of that. Heavens no, that's a complete disaster to mind, but not to you. You will find such a warm, comfortable space deep within that you won't even be moved in the least by mind's diversions at some point. Well, except perhaps to be amused. They won't be such an almighty bother anymore. Believe it or not, or maybe you've found it already, there's a permanent sort of deep contentment to be found within, in your kingdom of heart. Yeah, permanent peace. But don't go to mind to evaluate what that means. Time to stop looking to mind. Time to look to heart instead, and you can do this. It's just really and truly different, but it's doable. I promise. You have it in you. Literally, we all do. I'm not sure how much this second journal of the day adds to the first one. As promised, I didn't know where it was leading. Mine thought it might be more closely related to the deep, imaginal exploring of the last one. Guess not. Well, at least not obviously. It may turn out to be. We'll have to go back after recording and watch them both myself, if I can find the other one. Something inside feels they are deeply related anyway, and I trust such sensings far more than I ever trust mind anymore. I've been through what I hope is the worst of the uncomfortable intensity of recognizing that mind isn't who I am. Mind really tends to fight as if for its very life on first uncovering this. It doesn't last all that long. That will depend on you, no doubt, on how committed you are, on your intensity. You see, you can have what you want, but not without some 3D effort, some determination. Otherwise, you'll find mind far more determined than you are. Since it's fighting for its very life, well, the way it initially sees things, it will invest simply everything it's got to retain its place of power, dominating your life. Kind of sounds like the powers that were, huh? A couple of things already mentioned may help here. The first is to realize that this bugbear that you seem to be fighting is only 5% of the whole mind. So, not that much. The other thing is that you, my friend, are the divine. You are source in form. There is simply nothing, no thing that can stand against you, nothing that ever would, once you truly know who you are. So, this is your journey. Heart to head, yes, but so much more. Human to divine. Mind mastered to master of mind. After all, it should be huge, right? Isn't it the great shift? All love. Namaste.